good? What's good, people? What's good? I am back, and I am coming with that solution I was talking about yesterday. Hopefully, you checked out the show yesterday. I went into a little bit of options for us. I know that our fan base all wants 2 to 3 different midfielders or 2 to 3 different players coming in. So I took a little deep dive into some players that could be options for us. A lot of those players I mentioned were all primarily players that, at least the ones towards the end, were primarily either dream scenarios, or it was a situation where you had players that had promise but were youthful players that aren't going to create or not going to bring about the solutions or things that we necessarily need at the very moment, as that Fabinho style. And I know people sometimes are like, oh, well, why do we have to get Fabinho? Fabinho's Fabinho. Let's just get another player. Let's get someone else. Well, I just want to, when I make that reference, it's easier for a lot of people to understand or comprehend, to grasp, basically, what it is that the style and type of player that we're looking for, the production, the fit of that player that for this system. And what he produced was something that we all enjoyed, appreciated, and also definitely look forward to. So what it is today is I want you to just ease back, chill, okay, and just allow for this suggestion or this angle and conception of mine that I believe that Klopp possibly and should do is something that you possibly can understand once you see the numbers, once you see the breakdown of why I'm saying it. So, okay, so let's bring this up here. Get right into it, basically. All right, because I know a lot of people have critiqued what I brought out yesterday. There are also a lot of people are early up in arms. I mean, like, this is not going to be a discussion or a forum to go on about FSG or about Klopp or anything like that when it comes to like on performance or anything like that. This is going to just be about an open-minded approach. And I want you to all take this approach as saying, look, I get it. You might have some reservations for the player I'm about to introduce, but allow for me to introduce him at least, because he's certainly worth it. He is worldwide. Look, this is what I'm going to be bringing up, and I'm going to pull down my thing so you can see all the graphics. But Thiago, this is my argument for Mr. Worldwide as DM. We now know that we all need a DM. And we all know that we need this player to be a player to fit the role, to be a part of it, to be a part of everything that we need, you know. It's all good. It's all good. Get it out now. If you have the FSG out stuff or if you have the Klopp out stuff, just get it out now. Get it out. Shake it off. And then just breathe. Okay? But big up. I appreciate you guys tuning in and sticking with me for this one. Because, like, realistically, you know what? I've been doing some number crunching and doing some hard looks at what we have available. Obviously, there's a lot of different things that we could all say are necessary needs for us. And I would also say that Thiago is one of the few DMs that are on the team that has played the position of DM has a track record of playing the DM. Okay. And here's why I'm going to say this is the man that we need to go. So, if you look at his stats, let's just bring up his stats. These are his basic stats. And, I mean, when you look at them, I get it. Like, you'd be surprised. The one thing that really picked out to me was, you know, the man's is brilliance, you know, when it comes to a lot of different things that he brings onto this playing field. When it comes to his passing ability, we all see it. Everyone talks about eye test. We all see the eye test and everything else, you know? So that's cool. You know, I believe that at least we can come to a understanding that the man has pure sauce, pure class, when it comes to his abilities on the pitch. Okay, passing attempts, passing completions, successful take-ons, progressive passes. Progressive passes is a huge statistic when you're looking at a player's ability to create and his ability to link, be a link man, if anything. Okay, like progressive passing doesn't necessarily always mean that it is a pass that created an opportunity automatically. It means that it could be the pass that led up to the pass that led to an opportunity, which is huge because a lot of people don't like give credit where credit's due when it comes to the build-up play, the actual, hey, how'd you get to this opportunity? This man creates it, you know. But let's just get on to what it is that really, really made me say, let's just give this man a shout or a chance, or I believe at least he needs a shout. And this is some of the things, all right? A main component of my argument for Thiago as maestro of the DM is his progressive passes once again. And this is a more thorough breakdown on his statistics, okay? Now, if you like, I get that if you look at these offensive statistics, there's only really one that stands out. Let's not look at the yellow cards. It's a small percentage, all right? Realistically, it is a small percentage. But progressive passing is huge. 96th percentile is an amazing statistic to have as being that's where your progressive passing lies into, okay? But what really made it like something of an interest to me is that he is a player that, if you look at it, he's not the player you go for goals. He's not the player that you're looking to do a lot of shots. He's not the player that's going to be that's going to give like a lot of like even assists. He's not a player that does that. For the longest time, I mean, we all think of Thiago as this player that's going to be the player that's going to be the maestro, and that's what he is. However, when you think of maestro, you're thinking of, oh, he's going to be able to give, he's going to get assists, he's going to lead all his play and everything else. No, he's more of a deep line playmaker, a DLP, excuse me. He's more of that player that's going to be able to be the link man, the player that's going to create these opportunities for us. And that's something that I really, really started. If you look at these stats, you can really see what a lot of people are expecting and what a lot of people aren't really like realizing is that he isn't that player that's going to be in your final third of the pitch. He's more of the player that's going to be in that mid third, creating opportunities, being able to throw, be able to like put a dime pass on to any place on the pitch, but also primarily be able to control the ball. He has such great ability to control the ball. And that's something that we see when you do look at his these other stats. This is where he comes in. Passing is next level for this guy. And that's the incredible statistic. When you look at all that green, that is sexy when it comes to looking at a DM or a midfield player, period. Okay? Passing completions, passing attempts, total pass distance. I mean, we're talking like top 90 percentile for a man that everyone laments about his availability. And we'll get to that. But you look at all these numbers and you're like, wow, that's some really, really obviously next level stuff. But we've already assumed and already associate the fact that the man is next level when it comes to passing. Okay? Absolute next level. Well, look, what Klopp spoke about, one of Klopp's primary priorities is to become a possession team. But being Thiago doesn't really press far into the final third, keeping him in the mid third could preserve not only his legs, it could capitalize on his possession play, ball skills, and obviously his passing. That's the reason why I was really, really stressing that a lot of people, the pundits as well, have not really like spoken on this man being a DM. It could be the reason why we are maybe not, despite the fact that I agree with FSG and Klopp in the I don't agree on the $50 million evaluation for Lavia, but it's one of those situations where maybe this is why they're not really rushing into trying to get the over evaluation price on a player that they do want, but don't necessarily need as a necessity. Okay, and this is why. This is why I'm stressing a lot of what I'm saying, and it's more so. You look at again. These are all just touches. These are all of his, things. Carries into final thirds, around 73% or something along those lines. Okay, he's not exactly like overwhelmingly in the final third, and why I mean that at least is if you look at it, his touches in the defensive penalty box, his touches in the defensive third, his touches in the defensive in the mid third, 90 to 97. So primarily, he's spending the majority of his time in the midfield or in the defensive midfield, okay? Or excuse me, in the defensive third. And that's what I'm trying to get across to people. He even spends more time in our defensive portion penalty box than he does in the attacking penalty box. That's what I really wanted to like stress and bring out and at least show you a little something on this. These things aren't necessarily what you would expect, but they're things that are noticeable or definitely notable as well. And I wanted to also point out this big miscaveat for this player. I believe that Thiago's horribly underrated and woefully underrated defensively. I think an underrated defensively, Thiago could be great as a deep line playmaker, DM, especially factoring in his football IQ and experience in the position. Look, he's had at least about a quarter of his starts have been from DM. In the majority of his career, he's played a DM in some way, some facility. And that's what I'm looking at here again is a lot of these numbers up here. This is like the goals and shot creation. The shot creation is passing live and everything else. They're decent numbers. SEAD is that defensively is decent. But his tackles, look at those tackles. Look at the tackles won. Look at the tackles in the defensive third, the tackles in the defensive midfield, the tackles in the defensive, even in the attacking third. But primarily, he's not the press-oriented player. I know that a lot of us get and gripe about how Klopp has tried to change some players or change more players into things such and that, and talking about Thiago being a runner and all those throwaway quotes. But if you really look at this, his defensive third, 92 percentile. For tackles, the mid third, 95 percentile. Those are huge numbers. Those are great and definitely positive numbers once you start to look at what he's actually doing. And I mean, like, you also look, percentage of dribblers tackled, 59.4% for his 93 percentile rating. That's a big number. Interceptions, 89 percentile, 96 percentile in tackles plus interceptions. Big numbers. Big numbers. And those are the numbers that I think we could utilize. Now, why I think we could especially utilize those numbers is because let's take a deeper look at these defensive statistics. If you look at, again, those interceptions, 89 and 92 percentile, those are huge. Ball recoveries, 95 percentile. Even though he's not even that tall of a player, okay, and you would not expect great aerial dominance from him, he's still putting in average, if not, relatively average aerial wins. Doesn't lose the ball too often. But I mean, like, yes, I get it. That 23% aerial percentage won is small. but I mean, it's relative to what it is to these numbers. But my point is, my basic point, okay, is when you look at someone like Fabinho, comparatively speaking, to Thiago's numbers, he's almost a like for like. And I honestly do say he's almost a like for like when it comes to a lot of what you're seeing from Fabinho. However, he's a much more accomplished passer. A lot more of what he brings is progression and a progressive passes and possession. Possession, that's so huge. To be able to know that you can put the ball on his foot and he's not going to lose the ball is a phenomenal position of power to see our club be at. Okay, it just simply is, and it's what's crazy about it. So you do look at these numbers and you're like, wow. I mean, he's really, other than possibly clearances, okay, he's pretty much right on par, if not as obviously as going past him in the passing range. But you're getting what you're getting from him. You're getting, if anything, you're getting a DM that can create actual opportunities, and that's why I'm really looking at it. Now, if you want to talk about the present competition, that's what we're going to talk about. And please tell me your comments and your ideas. I'm sure I'm going to get a bunch, and I will address everything. Please stick with me on this as well. Just put them in the comments section. I am starring your comments, and I'll address them. I'll even engage with you a little bit so we can walk through this a little. Okay. So let's get into it. Curtis Jones. Curtis Jones is currently this number 6. I get that there's some people that have kind of given up on Curtis being the number 6. We've obviously seen Curtis play the number 6 as an English international. Okay. We look at his numbers. We look at his tackles are excellent, but everything else is kind of mediocre. When it comes to at least defensive wise, his offensive progressions are great and everything all good. And that's why when you do get to the comparison, you do see the difference. There's a huge difference when you try to bring up his statistics versus Thiago's. Now, I'm making an argument that you could definitely utilize Curtis as being a complement in our offense. He could still take on that role, that 8 role. Okay, he could still be the player that ends up being able to capably take on all the progressive stats and all the progressive, take-ons, progressive carries, all these types of things. You could honestly say that's where you want to see Curtis Jones, and I can honestly agree that would be understandable and completely acceptable for me. Where it is that I do disagree with right now, for one game, I can see, let's just get not twisted. For one game, I can see us being able to utilize him as a number 6, but I still think that Thiago's, obviously his numbers are beyond comparison. So then you might say, okay, well then our only real true DM, okay, and this is the honest truth, our only true DM is Stefan Bajcetic. Now, Bajcetic is exactly that. He is, he's the one that really does bring a player. He's the one that, how can I put it? These are the pros, okay? The pros for him is that he's definitely the heir apparent, okay? I get it. He's the definite heir apparent. However, what I do see him as is he's the most natural holding midfielder we have. It's the reason Fabinho, even when with his on-off from form, had such a difficult time surmounting the DM role from Stefan. I know the cons for him will definitely be he's very young. He's a teenager. I get that. And And he's on his way back from a long-term injury layoff. Understood. I like to see the fact that he is playing. I like to see the fact that he is trying to get back into shape. I like to see the fact that he did put on a little bit of weight, as in a little bit of a girth for him, so that he could have a little bit more physical prowess. But it is also there is a reason why I know that they're entertaining other options at DM, and maybe they're just preparing for the worst in case his injury doesn't completely heal under the time frame they're looking for, or at least his rehab doesn't go under the time that they're looking for. But look, I'd rather see Bajcetic do the opposite of what I believe was the reason for Fabinho's struggles, and that is not be rushed back into the lineup. I don't want to see this player be rushed back into the lineup primarily. And I think that he's one that I would like to see feature and compete once he is fully fit. I don't want to rush him back into this pitch. Now, we've seen his numbers. These are his numbers comparative to Thiago's. Once again, his numbers, despite the fact that everyone raved about how well he played, which I'm definitely in agreement. His age, his work rate, his ability to get to the ball, his interest in taking on players, I was very, very, very impressed, and everything else. You're not getting the same passing percentages or anything else. You're definitely getting more of a goal threat, if anything, but you're definitely not getting those defensive. He pales slightly in defense, and he definitely pales significantly in passing. Let's just get honest. Now, there are those that are talking about let's bring this man into the 6th role. Let's bring him into the 6th role. Now, I didn't even bring up his stats versus Thiago's because, one, he's only being rated against fullbacks. Okay, 2, he plays that inverted role, so it's a little hard and difficult to really bring in what it is that he has that makes him different, But obviously, Trent's world class in my book. Trent's world class. He's just he's generational talent that just has brought an evolutionary style of play to not only to this new halfback role he's starting to define, but also in the fullback position in general. So, look, Klopp gave the people what they wanted in the beginning of the season by moving Trent exclusively to the midfield as the number 6 during the preseason. But losing both Fab and Hendo made Klopp experiment. That's just simply it. He's just now experimenting. And that's where I think his role as the holding midfielder was. But let me point out, Trent pretty much plays the holding position already. He already plays that holding midfielder already somewhat. And that's with the recent change to the system. As an inverted halfback, we see him drift from right back to the midfield when attacking. And again, Brian, you just brought out something in the chat. I definitely will be your last comment right there. I want to definitely bring that out. But look, plain and simple, if Klopp was to start the vice captain in central midfield rather than just as the inverted halfback, that means someone would have to fill the role as right back, really. Okay. And that would be most likely Gomez, who I have been advocating should exclusively play right back rather than center back. But I don't think that is going to happen. As in the last friendly, Trent was already back at right back / inverted halfback role, which I intend to see him. And on top of that, you know what? I love Gomez. I would like to see him as a right halfback, as a right back. But considering this is the system, this is the plan of attack we're going to do, I'd like to basically just see us go with what we have. Okay. So these are the possible competition. This is the possible competition for the DM. Our boy Lavia is a talented player, very talented player. he does not even close bring the statistics that you're going to see when it comes to Thiago. And the thing about it is that really makes me say, okay, wait, let's just slow our roll a little bit. Let's slow down a little bit. Is because when you're looking at as Brian put out, those 5 bottom stats are the stats you really want to concentrate when you're looking at a DM. And those 5 bottom stats are tackles, interceptions, blocks, clearances, aerial wins, aerial one. And when you really think about it, I see the blocks. The 1.1 to the 1.9 is definitely a difference. However, where you look at tackles and interceptions are taking on the player, obviously getting into tackles, but also the interceptions. Not many people will probably realize the fact of how high Thiago's numbers are. And I think that goes to what I was speaking of earlier, which is that work rate. Big up John Conway in the house. Definitely OG in the house. Appreciate that, brother. And you really look at what it is that I'm talking about is that you look at these tackles. Look, Thiago is a good player when it comes to his football IQ. That correlates to some really differentiating numbers when you put it simply down to all of it. And you could even go as far as to this man. This man is the man that people have really put on as being a player that could be his the Thiago-esque style player. Okay, he's someone that obviously has a lot of those passing. Where you don't see it is he's not defensive minded. He doesn't. He definitely has defense in his catalog. He definitely has in his locker, as you want to put it. But he's not primarily focused on it because being 5'9", it is going to really prevent you from being an aerial dominator. Big up to Ensman, big up Ensman. Ensman TV, please definitely go subscribe. Show love to Ensman TV. He's definitely one of the true innovators on these platforms that we see today. And big up to Ensman. What I was saying about Thiago and Andre is that he brings out some good numbers. He brings out some really good comparisons. He definitely has a lot of very similar qualities with passing attempts and pass completions. That 99 percentile pass completion, that's sick for Andre. He's obviously, if not, I wouldn't say he's better, but I definitely think that he is someone that brings out some very comparable qualities when it comes to a lot of these things, a lot of these statistics when it comes to passing. But defensively, still, Thiago is still heads and tails above these players. And realistically, that's why it is what I'm saying when it comes to these players that what we need. I know that we all can look at a lot of what we see and think of and be in despair about our situation. Look, I am in agreement. I would like to have seen us gotten this work and these players over the line a lot earlier. I would have liked to have seen a lot of these players get to the status of being already wearing the kit, already being in a place, in an area of understanding the system, being complimented and being familiar with their teammates, which is ideal and important. I also would like to see a lot of these players be able to take on the new roles that we're going to be wanting them to see them take on. But realistically, look, we're all the elephant, or was the elephant in the room? Basically, I get that Thiago has injury issues with a lot of his career. I get that he gets labeled as the injury-prone person. I get also the fact that the one thing that we've all been asking for, and that is let's have this player be a luxury player for us. Let's have him be this player that we pick and choose when we can utilize him. We pick and choose how we can manage his minutes. We decide when we want to go drive this car. And that's what it is. He's that Maserati in your garage. Okay. This is the story I often tell. There was a time when I was going to look at buying a new car. I went to go look for a new car. I was looking at possibly getting my friend owned dealerships and he owned little higher end cars. I went to go and look, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go take a look at this guy's car dealership or the cars on his lot. I saw the Maserati. I was like, oh wow, that's hot. That's a really nice car. The one thing about Maserati is you don't drive it every day. You can't. You don't look for it to be your everyday car. It's one of those flashy cars. It's one of those cars that you drive out for dinner or to the events or to or I don't know, to just be looked at or seen on town. Whatever it is, it's not that car that you want to drive every day. Because the maintenance on it is ridiculous if you do. Okay. I'm not looking at Thiago being the everyday 6. What it is that I'm looking at is having him be that luxury player. Okay. And I'm looking at it as being Thiago as that luxury player to provide that deep lying playmaker. I think that we could reserve his legs, put some extra miles possibly on his legs that just went in for a major tune-up with the hip surgery. I get that that's hopefully going to correct his balance, correct his approach as in to limit the knocks or the way that his body responds to doing what he has to deal with. I wish I had Chris Angel in the actual chat right now because he could help me, push this point along in that, when it comes to a lot of the way that we walk, the way that we run, a lot of those things are the differences in how we get the wear and tear on our bodies. So maybe hopefully it creates a better gait for him. It creates a better balance so he can, be able to manage and deal with the knocks and everything else. Like I said, easier. But let me just dive into a couple of these comments because there were some pretty good comments here. This is what Brian Morris is saying. I never expected goals and assists from Thiago, but I understand why some people did. I think a lot of people did. I think a lot of people brought in the ideas that this man is going to bring us not necessarily even goals. I mean, they knew he could shoot, and he has a great ability, but they automatically assumed he was going to be an assist merchant. And even myself was under that pretense of saying, wow, this player is going to really bring some assists. Brian Morrissey is also saying, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but where there's also context. He achieved a lot of those numbers beside a DM. I think that just shows he has more defensive ability than some realize. And that's where I'm trying to get across is that I agree that he did achieve a lot of those numbers. The context that you're asking for or bringing out is that he did create those numbers by a DM. He did create a lot of those numbers with a DM playing that destroyer role. But what I do think of is that the reason why I'm bringing up those statistics is because it shows that he does have the ability to defend. It's not as though he has a deficit or creates a deficit for the club as a defensive player. Okay, and it's more so with me. It wasn't just his defense; it was also his ability to create and knowing. I would love to see him in that role. And knowing that the fact that he doesn't get into the spaces and places that people really think that he gets into. That final third, that mid third is primarily where he makes his bread and butter. So Philip Bidwell, big up Philip, by the way. Even though Thiago can do a good job as a DM, I still think we need an experienced DM specialist that's in their mid-20s. I can agree with the fact that I'm not saying that Thiago's our answer in that we go forward for the next year, 2 years, 3 years as him being and trying to get the production levels out of this player as we did a Fabinho. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is this calendar year, this year that we're focused on, I believe that bringing in a Lavia, bringing in obviously a Bichetti to play that role, platooning them, bringing in an Andre, platooning these players in that role with him being the focal point, him being that player that we say we pick and choose these matches when we're gonna, release the Kraken, release the beast, that is Thiago, and allow for him to be that deep line playmaker. I can't stress that enough. That deep line playmaker, that's what we could utilize. If we could utilize that, that'd be so. Imagine a midfield that you have Thiago and Trent as facilitators from a position where you allow for Trent to roam, to go forward. You put the emphasis or the emphasis of the workload, the emphasis of all of the majority of running on, as you just said here, a mid-20, a mid-20-year-old midfielder in Trent. You allow for him to do the runs. You allow for him to push forward. You allow for him to get into the advanced placement. And then you'll basically say to Thiago, hey, just focus in on this midfield, focus in on a little bit more of what you're already doing. Again, which is that final third portion of your game. Those are the numbers that I say I would look to see him do. Because again, having the 97 percentile of touches being in the midfield, having the 90 percentile touches from defense, knowing that we often see Ali be just basically, you see Thiago come back all the way to the penalty box basically to receive the ball, carry the ball forward into the midfield, and then distribute. That's what we would like to see. I'm looking at it as if that counter press, which is huge, that counter press that we definitely need, that's what I'm looking for, okay? Those bottom 5 stats are the most important for a DM, in my opinion. I don't need progressive carries or passes from a DM. Those Thiago stats are playing as an 8, Brian Morsi say. I get that those are playing as an 8. What I'm saying, though, is as a DLP, okay, you might be able to create someone that brings out DM qualities while being able to have the option, being able to have that flair and threat for our oppositions to have to deal with. Knowing that you have a player. Fabinho was good physically. He was good in the sense of being able to, pass and carry the ball somewhat, but adequately, if at that. But what you're going to get from Thiago is a difference. You're going to be able to get a player that is going to be able to not only progressively pass it forward, but progressively carry it forward. You're going to be able to get a player that's going to be able to keep the ball at his feet and be able to distribute, appropriately. Okay. Conway, I do. All right, big up. Definitely. I do have. I did start. I believe I thought I started your comment because I know I saw you at a. Oh, I did. Big deal. Let's see. Steven Gerrard had back problems for ages, having dental surgery fixed it. Everything is connected. I didn't know that. If that's true, that's cool. I didn't know that part. For me, it's a difficult call. Brian Morsi is saying, asking him to do more defensive work, which would inevitably would take away some of his ability. Trent needs to cover. I look at it as like, again, the reasons why I'm looking at it as such is this, and just allow me. Why I'm looking at it is from, I would like to see this player be, big up Bejan Pops in the house, definitely. Check out Bejan Pops and Bejan Reds TV. They just had a great episode yesterday, giving a little bit of a preview of the season opener, and also I'm going to be doing my own season preview as well. But they did a very, very good analysis, or at least a presentation. So big ups. So what it is that I was looking at is this. I was asking for you to allow me to just deal with deal with what I'm trying to present, basically. And that is, look, I'm not saying that he's going to be a destroyer. I'm not looking for Thiago to be a destroyer. I'm not looking for him to be the player that brings out that aspect of the Fabinho game. He's not like for like when it comes to those attributes. But what it is that I see him being able to bring out, again, is that concept of the deep line playmaker. Okay, the player that's going to be able to create be able to create some opportunities. I think that where we start to lose the conception is this: if our front line is the emphasis of where we all have to continue to place our attention on when it comes to defense. Okay, I really would like to to emphasize that. And these are some of the things that I really wanted to make sure that we got there, because while both a deep line playmaker versus like a defensive midfielder or a ball winning midfielder, okay, or more of a defensively oriented midfielder, this is what the definition is when you're explaining it. It says, while both contribute to defense, the deep line playmaker is also involved in teams' attacking dynamics. With pinpoint passing, he's able to feed the ball into the attack. That's what Thiago can do. A ball-winning midfielder, on the other hand, is more defensively oriented. That's what Fab was. He usually plays a secondary role in the team's offensive efforts. I'm looking at just that. I'm looking at it as this player could be that deep line playmaker because he can create pinpoint passing. Anyone that wants to contend that, I would be very open to it. But why I brought up those statistics earlier about, again, let me see if I can bring them up again real quick. Why I brought up these statistics, let me bring up this. All right, so let me just go into. So why I brought up these statistics is just that those passing numbers are great. Okay, those passing numbers are fantastic. All of us agree. We're not going to say or disagree that the man can pass. But what a lot of people might have issues with is saying, okay, now we're going to be placing the emphasis on his game on defensive numbers, on his defensive abilities, and that's exactly why I brought up the sheer fact of why his defense does make a difference. His defense does make a difference. And I get that he's getting his defensive numbers from his 8 role. Okay, I get that. But what I'm trying to say is that if he was trying to do those defensive numbers, even in the 8, and he was having poor numbers, then I'd say, okay, he's not defensive minded. He's not able to do he's not able to do a defensive role at all. I can understand that, but that's not the case. He has defensive abilities. You look at those tackles. Again, tackles won, tackles done, tackles in the defensive third, tackles in the defensive mid. Majority of his tackles are coming in the defensive portion of the field. He's not a presser. He's not the person. I get we all said the running around portion, and again, I get the joke. However, if we can limit his necessity of having to go from box to box, if we can limit the necessity of him being the player that has to bring in the pressing orientation of what is correlated to that running statistic, okay, that's where we could possibly see some real cool answers, some real solutions, some real production, some real complementary production. Not saying he doesn't provide already as an 8, but as a 6 as well. I mean, realistically, you could possibly see that as a 6 as well. I mean, it's a very interesting, predicament that we're in that we don't have a 6 already lined up. We don't have that player that is going to necessarily be your everyday player. If you look at what Fab did, Fab played 70% of the minutes, or 70, a good in the 70 percentile of the minutes provided at the DM was Fab. Again, Fab was so necessary to the system that we asked for Fab to come back from injury, in my opinion, too early and provide that relief for the system. But realistically speaking, those tackles those tackles that we see, the dribblers tackled. I mean, he can take on players and actually get the ball. It's because of his football IQ. It's because of his experience. It's because that he's a beyond capable player that knows how to break down the spacing, be able to be placed on it. Like those things are all things that we can all agree. And I'm not saying that I'm looking to get a full 90 out of Thiago. That's the difference. I'm looking at managing his minutes properly, looking at bringing in. I definitely still am on board of bringing in Lavia, not for the price that Southampton wants, but hey, if we end up whatever we end up doing, we end up doing. But I also look at it as I would also like to see us bring in Andre. I would also like for us to start to incorporate Bashetic, who I believe has promise and I hope has success at his rehabilitation and is able to get on the pitch and actively contribute once again in the role. But I don't want to overstress his things as well. And what I'm looking at it as is I want to see this player be we're going to look at it as this. And I just saw Bejan Pops put up a comment, and I'm going to bring up his comment real quick here. And then I'm going to go to your comment, Brian. And again, please, in the comment section, or if you're listening, cool. If you're driving, don't obviously type and text. But like if you're in the office or, at home or, wherever you're at in your leisure, please do comment or say something in the chat, because you know what? I will address it. But this is what I was about to say. 12th man, unfortunately, I am seeing the 6 by committee, and Thiago is one of those who can play there in specific matches and not every match, every week. So agreed, manage those minutes. I'm looking at it just as that. I'm not saying that he needs to be our primary 6, in that the way that we relied on Fabinho getting the minutes that he got, I'm not looking for that to happen. Not at all. But what I am looking for out of Thiago, especially considering he wants to be here, which I give mad props and pleasure to hearing. One thing I can say is that with Thiago, I'm looking at it as the number 6, yes, committee, cool. But the chairman of that committee needs to be Thiago. The chairman of the board, the chairman of the committee needs to be Thiago. He needs to be big game that we need, a big game that we need this player to play in. He needs to be that player. If we, it's a team that we need to break down, a team that possibly we could utilize with especially against the low block teams. Excuse me, the low block teams. We need to see him in that role, because he's the person that then you can find players doing the runs, and you can see the distribution being administered into by him. And that's what I'm trying to get across. Brian Morrissey is saying, against lower teams at home, maybe away at City or Manchester United, I wouldn't trust it. I love Thiago, but I can't get on board, man. Okay, I get it. But realistically, I would like to say, Brian, hypothetically, we do see him in this role. Hypothetically, we do get an opportunity to see him against Manchester United, against Arsenal, against or at least until we have an assorted lot, or a customated 6 that is in form or anything like that. I'm saying you might have to eat those words. But then again, I could easily eat mine as well. So we'll see. Let's see here. Jake is saying, McCallum, Thiago, Bichetic, and Jones, not for me. We'll have to play the 6. Oh, Jones, not for me. We'll have to play the 6 until we get someone in. Problem is, Thiago and Bichetic haven't played at all in the preseason. Agreed. Look, I'm not saying I want to rush Thiago back. I'm not saying that Thiago is the immediate answer right this minute. But what I am saying is, if the man is healthy and is able to put in some minutes, I like the option of having him as a starter point. And again, if we can get 60 minutes out of him, that's all I'm looking for. The same kind of like interest. And big up to Philip Bidwell. Big up. In my opinion, Bichetic is ready to be a backup DM right now, not the main DM, because he's got real promise. Agreed. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Big up, Philip. But going back to Jake Chism's comment too, is that I look at it as we have some solutions. We have some options that can play 6. Jake Chism just listed them, for instance. And we all saw what McAllister brought. McAllister's talented. I think, truthfully, McAllister is we can all say McAllister is somewhat of a like in essence of Thiago. I really do contemplate that he is someone that you can see being a player that has very similar qualities as Thiago. He's a really solid option, but he's someone that I don't want to lose. I'd rather, if he's the lesser of two evils in this sense, I wouldn't want to lose his production at the 8 to complement that for the 6. However, I would sacrifice Thiago's contribution at the 8 for his contribution being at the 6. That's what I'm trying to get at when it comes to McAllister versus Thiago. I like McAllister in that 8. I like him in a little bit more of an advanced role. I like the fact that he is going to possibly produce more goals or more shots. He is someone that will take those shots outside of the box. We've all fallen in love with his ability to facilitate and create for other players. That's where I don't want to necessarily lose. Oh wow, big up to Jean Gray in the house. One love for sure. One love always. I do see what it is being. He can bring out some real quality play and be in the defensive role. That's where we're at right now. We're at this place where we need to find a 6. Everyone's screaming for a 6. Everyone needs a 6. Guess what? That man who wears the number 6 could be that 6. He could be that 6 for the right games. We could be that 6 for a player that just gives us 60 minutes. And what I was referencing earlier was the Henderson concept. If we can get the type of minutes out of Thiago that we got out of Henderson, I'd be cool. I'd be more than cool with that. And that's what I want to see. I want to see this player manage his minutes. I want to see this player give us a good 60 and know that, yes, we're not going to think of you as a full 90 player. We're just going to look at you as being a player that can help facilitate, a player that can obviously progress the ball from the penalty, from the box to into the midfield and be able to create, be able to be a link man, whether it's creating opportunities for Trent, creating opportunities for big up to Stefano in the house, big up, being able to create for McAllister. Those are what I would like to see. Being a link man and being someone that has adequate, if not underrated defensive skills that Thiago has in that 6 would be good. And I think what a lot of people are doing is that we're not stressing or we're not looking at the fact that he creates these things because he has such high football IQ. I think someone that's a smart player, someone that understands the game, understands how if you give him a role, he can adjust to it. He has the ability to be smart about his runs, to be smart about his positioning, to be smart about knowing his teammates and how they like to receive the ball, how they like to how they like to press or play defense alongside him. That's where it's necessary. That football IQ is something that I really, really think that I get it. Stefano's saying here, for instance, Thiago can't be relied on. It's 2,000 minutes in all comps if we're lucky. Look, I'm hoping that we do see what I've already expected from Thiago. Thiago plays about 27, 28 matches. He'll play around that. I get that a lot of that was because of injuries or because of certain knocks that he had to take throughout his entire career. But if we already knew that we're going to be getting that kind of production from him, okay, then I don't see why we can't wrap our mind around just having him play a role where we get maybe 60 minutes out of him, where we get a role where we pick and choose what competition that we can utilize him against. And we don't have to have him as being our everyday DM. Just have him be the DM in the roles where we know we need an accomplished, an established, or even what's the word I'm looking for? A player that has a distinguished mind to know the capabilities of what you need in that player. Okay, what you'd have to see a defensive-minded player or a deep-lying playmaker in that DM role be, and that's what it is. He's a DLP playing DM. A DLP playing DM in Thiago is a nice compliment. And I know, again, people are going to say what you're going to say what you say when it comes to, is this player going to give us the minutes, or how I'm still struggling to wrap my mind on how what it's going to be. I don't think that he's going to be required to end up being, okay, but I know and I get it, because a lot of the times, a lot of the comments I'm seeing, and big up Gene Gray says this. Thiago's my boy. I just want us to be able to play the role he's supposed to. Thiago doesn't have a 40-yard sprinter. Stop trying to play him that way. I agree. You know what? He's not a sprinter. He's not someone. Let me hold up that comment, because that's a good comment. He's not a sprinter. He's not someone that's supposed to be doing excessive running and doing all the different take-ons that we've seen him be required to do. It's a breakdown. I get it. I just look at it as I think what he's saying here is Stefano, and Stefano and I don't always agree on a lot of things, but I'd be up for it. I'm saying keep an open mind for it. If it does happen, remember who's stating this. Remember the things, because a lot of the comments, a lot of the things I put out there into the universe, into our community atmosphere, you'll realize that sometimes you'll see what I say and I'll be laughed at, or I'll be mocked, or whatever, or I'll be have my doubters that say no. Yet you'll see week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, comment creators saying exactly what it was I said. That's that dopamine that's going on, as Ensman put it, going on in my brain here. A lot of the things that I'm saying, hey, if it happens, please definitely show some love. But yeah, Thiago, Mac, Dom, imagine that midfield. That's not a bad one. That's a saucy midfield. One that, realistically, I can't stress enough. If we were to just get a if we were to get our counter press situated, that front line situated. Look, Hata plays because he's a great counter presser. He's understood and been able to take on the role of knowing how to counter press. That's why he gets the playing minutes above a lot of other players that might be, quote unquote, more talented than he is. And he's a talent in itself, okay? But, you know, when you look at it, Hakpo, again, he gets the minutes because he is so dominant when it comes to being able to take on that counter press, be a somewhat of a reminiscent player of the production that we got out of Bobby. Okay, obviously, if Mo commits to the counter press, to tracking back, understanding that the reason why we excelled so much was because Mane did excessively the amount of work of tracking back, performing on defense, counter pressing, all those things. If we got that kind of work rate out of Mo, we might see an increased success rate in our counter press. And if our front line creates the counter press, you're not only relieving the pressure on your midfield, you're not only relieving the pressure on that back line, you are creating opportunities in a more advanced position. That's where it starts. If you're able to, you know, retrieve the ball in the final third, you're having a defense, you're having an opposition have to turn on its heels, okay, and understand the fact that they've got to now concentrate their defense. Those players that they're trying to leak forward, it's players that are trying to cheat and possibly get into those open spaces that I get that we've all, or not all, but some have critiqued about Trent moving into that inverted halfback position and creating the back three that ends up creating gaps. Look, every, and I can't stress this enough, every offense or every formation is going to have weaknesses. It's about how you pinpoint those weaknesses, okay? If we find Trent moving into that inverted halfback position alongside Thiago, and you have Dom and you have McAllister doing the work rate they do, doing the things that they do best, you have a front three that is performing, and I mean putting in the work, you will have success. You won't have the alarm bells ringing, or you won't be also worried about the defense, because our defense will be at the tip of the spear, as I put it. That counter press is the tip of the spear. The one thing that, if you heard that interview that he gave, Klopp gave an interview and he spoke about how he wanted to be a progressive team in a sense, or a possession, team. And that was something that was important to bring out. And he wanted to be a possession team, and he wanted to be the best counter-pressing team, period. He wanted to be the definition of both of those things. But he did say possession team first. Thiago's possession. Trent is a possession player. Obviously, being able to progressively pass the ball. McAllister is a possession player. We all are very high on Dom's work rate and his ability to hold the ball, ability to progress forward, ability to shoot, be an offensive threat, possession player once again. I think that realistically, and again, I get it might be a lot of what I'm saying. The proof will be in the butter, or however they say it. The proof is in the pudding. That's how they say it. Okay. I'm very interested. I'm very interested to see how that will work. And if anything, what's funny about it is, I know this isn't necessarily the time to experiment. And again, our time to experiment was the preseason. We have experimented in the preseason, utilizing Trent in the 6, utilizing Curtis Jones in the 6, utilizing McAllister in the 6. Okay, we have experimented already by utilizing those, trial runs, and for the majority, most people haven't been overly impressed with the production of the 6 in that, whoever played the 6 in that role with this system. But what I am saying is, it's not a bad thing. I get it. I get a lot of people don't want to wrap their head around it. But I'm saying, if you're listening to me, if he does approach this and utilize this system, remember you heard it here first, because I want to empower this fan base. Fan base is the best fan base in the world. I love being a part of it, and it's one that I want to see. I want to personally bring glory to, and I want to see be glorious in itself. And you guys in the chat, you guys that show love by, tuning in, by commenting, subscribing, all doing everything that you do, I humbly appreciate it, and I think it's a real testament of what it means to be a Red. So big up. So all right, let's knock out some of these comments. Jean Gray is saying, after watching Thiago's doc on Amazon, my heart was broken how we used him, especially when he got injured. The slander is dark. Love you, Thiago, my goat, for sure. Big up to Jean Gray. Always showing love. True Red, for sure. Phil Bidwell say, if we play Thiago by using his football IQ, he will get a great season and have less injuries. Phil, big up. And Phil's someone that doesn't always agree with my takes, okay? Big up. It is comforting to see sometimes someone, realize saying the same thing is exactly what it is. He's a smart player. We need someone that understands the role, that has experience. That's what I've been pressing. I have not had a problem with bringing in youth and having youth play this position. But what I do have an issue with is some youthful player and then trying to allow for him to grow into the role, allowing for him to be that person. I don't think that we can see any of the solution or options that we have as being an automatic fit immediately. But it's only because, not saying they don't have a football IQ, I'm just saying they don't have as a seasoned football IQ as Thiago. Stefano saying, if it's about being entertained, Thiago, Max, Dom, Lucho, Invasor, Salah would entertain me anyway, and it would. Just seeing that lineup alone, that's, oh my goodness, straight, like, I don't know about y'all, but I love my red sauce, but that is going to give me heartburn like a mug, because that is mad spicy. Let's see. Brian saying, and this is what a lot of people will say, and I get it, and this is all on paper, I get it, but let's see. It works on paper, but I can't get behind in any system that relies on Thiago. Forget picking and choosing when plays. A player can get injured, and in the moment, Klopp is key. Thiago isn't a Klopp DM, in my opinion. Okay, and again, this is why I want to have the forums. I want to be able to have discussions. This is why I would like to hear your points, your references, the things that you bring up to validate your points. I'm all about it, because, you know me, I'm going to bring out my statistics. You know me, I'm going to bring out my own personal introspections of my own eye test conceptions. Let's see. Thiago is one of my favorite players. His vision and technique is levels above many players. Injuries ruins his last season, which is the truth, absolute truth. Would you consider Jack Harrison of Leeds as a cover for Mo? Wow, I like him. I'd have to really think about that. I think Jack Harrison is a good player. I think, though, I am pretty sold on Doak. I like Doak as a right winger, or at least being that inverted forward. I like what we're going to see out of Doak. I like the fact that he has a really solid frame. He has, if anything, he reminds me of Mo Salah in his build. I think that the future could be with Doak playing as a backup for Mo. But Jack Harrison is a good and talented player, and we all know Leeds is not in a position of power, being in the championship. So yeah, I'll do a definitely deeper look into that for you though. Yeah, Harrison's an okay player, probably one of the best at Leeds. Absolutely. And he's a youth player. I believe, I want to say I think he's an English homegrown. So I'd have to definitely take another look at that, though. When we signed Thiago, we knew what we signed him for. A player with 200 football IQ. That was never in the question. And again, let's see. Thiago's like that friend we all have. He shows up at the party. It's happy days, but you don't organize the party relying on him being here. That's a good analogy. That's a pretty good analogy. I like that one. Yeah, he's definitely a good friend. But I would even go as far as to say Thiago's the cool guy that you hope shows up to your party, but you're not expecting to show up at your party. If that wants to go to everyone's injury-prone stuff, okay. But hey, when he does show up to your party, it is happy days for sure. Let's see. Yep, Doak is Sal's replacement when needed. He's shown the fire he can play, and most fans will give him a chance. Agreed. I think that he's definitely going to be the replacement when it comes to our. I think he's created an answer. I think he's put it to the point where he was, I believe, slated to be going back out on loan. You know, one thing about the preseason, I think people look at it and they look at wins and losses. They look at, the things that we're looking to see as being, how this player played or that player played. And I'm like, I want to see those things too, in the sense of not necessarily goals and wins and losses and all that stuff, but I would like to see a player rounded to form. I would like to see that player is in shape. He's actually fit. He's able to make the runs. He's able to perform the things. The primary thing I'm looking at in the preseason is no injuries. I'm looking at get through preseason without getting injuries. And as long as you get through preseason without injuries, I'm cool with whatever is created from that part and point. But what it is that I look for from preseason is what we saw from our youth. Our youth academy players, I think, have really shown some real promise. I think that our youth players have seen the fact that Bajcetic, for instance, was given this opportunity, not by the sheer brilliance that he showed in the academy, but by the fact that we had a need. When we had a need for midfielders, we had to go and rely on our youth players. Bajcetic stepped up to the role, performed more than adequately, and I think what we do see is a player. You saw a player be beloved by a fan base, but also be given the opportunity to play, and one that actually showed up and played it. Someone that showed up and played well. Okay. And that's something that I'm really, that's one of those things I got out of the preseason, was that our youth academy has put a lot of promise, a lot of promise on a lot of players that before giving the evaluations that we were hearing, a lot of people were down on our academy. A lot of people did not see our academy creating any real promising players, any real good players at that. A lot of people really didn't see what our academy could produce. And I think why I brought up the Bajcetic thing was because I think just like what we saw in Doak, just like we've seen in Clark, for instance, just like we've seen in some of the many of the other players that have shown up for our team. I think that a lot of those players have seen Bajcetic and said, I could possibly utilize that. Maybe someone in his camp, maybe his parents, maybe his dad or mom or brother or sister, whoever it is that helps, or best friend, whoever it is, his manager, agent, whoever it is that got in some of these players' ears and said, hey, you saw what Pachetic did last year? Utilize this time. You're going to have the spotlight on you. And we saw a lot of these players stepping into roles with confidence. And that was something that was very, very promising. Extremely, for me at least, extremely promising. I think Gene has an answer back. I asked as many think Dokes should go out on loan, and I'm thinking then who if he goes. Okay, I get you. I asked as many think Dokes should go out on loan, and I'm thinking then who if he goes, who could replace him. And Harrison is a good shout. I think though, why I was going into my little not rant, but my little soliloquy is because I believe Doak has solidified himself as getting a place on the squad. I think Doak will be on that senior squad going forward and be utilized as an option. I think Doak does create a lot of issues and problems for oppositions. I think he has an amazing work rate. I think he has an ability to really get involved with play. He has confidence, which is so exceptional for a player. Sometimes the hardest thing for a player, a youth player especially, to get over or get into their locker is you can have the ability to have confidence amongst youth players or in that youth field, or maybe even in the championship league or some other league that you're playing in around the world. But to have it in the Premier League, to be able to go on the pitch every day and see who you're surrounded by and feel like you deserve to be there and be a part of it, to go into match days and be able to compliment and push past the fact that you're 19, 20, whatever year, whatever age you're at, 17 in some of these cases, those are really promising and amazing attributes to have, so I think that that's something that we see, and it's well stated, Gene. I think that it would be nice to have a complement to right wing. I've had some players that I would like to see bring in as a right winger. I've been on Kang Yi Lee. Is one of those players, for instance, that he just ended up going. I think he went from Mallorca to PSG. I want to say he's a player I'm very high on. Player I would love to see put on a red kit. Him going to PSG, he'll get lost in the sauce, and he'll probably have to find his game once again. But I like the player. But again, I think Doak is a quality player that could be in that winger position. But let's get back to Thiago. Thiago's the subject. Thiago's areas just wanted to, bringing out the analytical signs. What's in the bottles? How about what was in the bottle is a better question. Let's see. Bring up some of these comments here. All right. We're getting into the goat like in the Chinese sign is a goat. No wonder he's one of the best. I didn't know that his Chinese sign is the goat. That's funny. That's pretty funny. Jean Gray is also saying, but turning to the youth is because we don't plan our squad properly, plus injuries though, right? And I'm saying, look, I get it. You know what? I would go as far as to say injuries happen. I get it. Injuries happen to every team. We can all agree on that. Some teams are more fortunate when it comes to the injury bug than others. A notable case of that was Arsenal. Arsenal got to play the majority of the time the same starting 11, the majority of their season last year. And you saw the fact that they were able to get continuity. They were able to get a team that they knew their places, they knew their roles, they knew what you're going to get out of that team, and they were able to get some real momentum. That was something that Arsenal was able to do. When the injury bug hit, for instance, when Saliba went down, when the injury bug hit, they had to manage when Jesus went down. Saliba was a little bit later. But all the same, when the injury bug hit and those legs started to feel the wear and tear of having to be the primary team that gets put into that placement, that's when you saw it. And I think that with our academy players playing and what they did, yes, it wasn't what any club really wants to plan on doing is utilize their academy players. We saw it when we had to use Reese, for instance, or when we had to rely on Kabak wasn't an academy player, but we had to bring out Kabak as a player. This is why I'm saying I get that injuries happen. You prepare for the worst, expect the best, but prepare for the worst. That's always my moniker. But I think, hey, if we have youth players that can step up, it's the difference maker. And we've had some youth players step up. Shetik, obviously step up. The youth players are the new signings and the rebuild. I get that. And Jean Grey does show love, as we all know you would. She loves Dose themselves. Very promising. Agreed. Okay, so here's some lengthy questions or things. Let's see what two very distinguished commenters. Brian Morrissey says, I've looked into the Premier League Academy football a lot. It's absolutely brutal. Less than 1% of academy players ever sign a professional contract at any level, and 0.2% will play Premier League football for their clubs. That is an incredible stat. That is an incredible stat. And I'm a stat person. Big up to Brian, bring that to the front. And you think about it. Look, we're utilizing some academy players, but it could be a testament of we've got some decent academy players. We've got some really decent academy players. And I'm like very optimistic on what we can see from those academy players. I'm really optimistic to see what we can bring from those academy players. Yep, the whole system over the years have been, this is Jay Kismet saying, you never walk alone. Yep, the whole system over the years has been a failure, not just with us, but nationwide. Trent, Foden, and Saka are three players who have come from the youth system and succeeded, but where are the rest? Hey, I would like to include some other players from that system. I would like to be able to include Doak. I would like to be able, not saying he's there yet. I'm not saying he's on Foden level. I'm not saying he's on Saka or Trent level. But what I am saying is there's real promise there. Being able to go into practice every day with these first teamers is great. I would love to see them get play time and experience on the levels of playing in match day fitness or match day experience. Would love to see that. And again, the reason why I say I'm cool with them going out to play, teams such as Celtic or as your Blackwoods or your I don't know, your Schalkes or teams like that. Okay, why I would say I'm cool with them going on to teams or participating in, and this is our academy that I'm speaking on, them going into teams like that is because you're guaranteed to get them playing time. You're guaranteed to get them some high level, not exactly Premier League level, but definitely higher level than possibly your own academy level opposition that they're going to be playing against versus other youthful players. But if you're able to get them some real quality time, it's good because they're not going to get quality time on the bigger teams. Those bigger teams don't need them. And those bigger teams, if they needed them or are going to utilize them, guess what? We're a big team that can obviously utilize them too. So again, it's a matter of with our youth players, I like to see them go out on loan and go out to the right team if they're going to go out on loan. And also, not only do I like the fact that they do go out on loan, I like the fact that a lot of the players that we have, the academy players that I'm speaking on, a lot of these players have all produced and created some real good numbers or a promise, I should say, when it comes to what we're seeing from them. I think what it is as well. And Brian Morrissey, I like that. This is why I believe these are soldiers in the fight. I love it. In terms of Thiago, Bichetti learning from him is huge for me. What a teacher. this is what I saw in Fab for Basetic last year. I thought it was so complimentary to have him as a player that you were learning from, that you were competing, the level and the bar that you're trying to place it at. And albeit Fabinho's bar might have decreased last year, okay, in the beginning of the year. Towards the end, it got raised up a little bit, not to the level that we saw in previous seasons, but certainly a level that was producing for us. But again, this is what I like. I like to see that. This is what I would love to see. Thiago, Basetic, Lavia, even an Andre, who has very similar role characteristics as a Thiago. I would love to see them continue to be taught, in essence, by the master in Thiago. I would love to see them pick up the football knowledge and experience and the things that they can from Thiago and understand that they are not going to be passed to the side where this player is going to play, knowing that they're going to have their opportunity, knowing that they're going to have to possibly step in and fill in for the role or for the minutes towards the end of the match for when Thiago is not playing, or vice versa. They're going to be in a role where they're going to be able to put out 60, 70 minutes, and then Thiago will be able to be utilized as that luxury player to be able to join the squad and create or keep the level at the level that he can produce with this football IQ. That's what I'm really, really stressing, is the reason why I get a lot of people aren't going to be sold on this, or there's going to be people that just aren't going to want to take those keys and run with it. But, you just can't go wrong with you can't say Thiago isn't a player that is going to improve the abilities. And obviously, and this is what I say, the way that he's taken on the role of helping Darwin, for instance, especially since of the language barriers, the way that he's taken on a role, knowing he is not necessarily a part of that leadership group that was deemed to be the leadership group, but he is a leader in the locker room. Everyone says it. Everyone that correlates to Thiago understands leader, experienced senior player, veteran. All these things are things that you associate with Thiago. And it's something that I really think is a positive. Big up Realism Jared. Thiago positional awareness and reading of the game, is elite. If you can pass that on, amazing. And that is what I would love to see. Something, again, teacher to the pupils, and that's what we have in this role right now. The only players that we're bringing in, or the players that were on that list, that I spoke of, all those players, again, are all they're all players that, again, Curtis Jones, who I don't want to see him as a 6 going forward. I just like to see him as a 6 temporarily for that Chelsea match. But dealing with the players we're talking about, Basetic, pupil, okay, Lavia, a pupil. Again, Andre, a pupil. And I say a pupil in that he will be a student of the game. They're all students of the game, but having Thiago as that player, is what we want. It's what we need. Having that, he's the player that we need to be the player that brings some real progression to these youth players. That's what I'm saying. All right, so I'm going to deal with this question too. We were strongly linked to Thiago when he was leaving Barcelona. He obviously ended up at Bayern, but that one really depressed me. Players like him are special. We got him eventually, right? And I was all so hyped when we saw Thiago join this club. I think that I would like to finally get a solid and consistent run from Thiago. Look, I get the injury prone problems or conceptions of where his game might concern you. I think that what I want to see from Thiago, though, is let's lessen the amount of running he has to do by creating a somewhat of a portion of the pitch that we concentrate his inclusion on. Let's limit it, or not limit it, but let's focus it on the midfield in the back, in the final, or the third, the defensive third, which we see that's where he does already. If anything, I'd like to see that 97 or whatever it was. I think it was like 97% tile or something along those lines. But that 90% plus number get pushed up a bit in the final third. I'd like to see that mid third get pushed up a bit and have him be that player that we just limit the amount of running he does by having him be that deep line playmaker that utilizes his passing ability, utilizes the ability to be a release, or be that that release lever for Ali, for when we want to start, we want to like try to create a counter press, whether Ali can do it himself sometimes, but knowing a quick roll of the ball to Thiago to his feet, he could turn. You're not going to lose the ball for the most part. You're not going to lose the ball when it's at his feet, and have him be able to find out Trent, or find out find Trent, or find McAllister, find possibly even Dom, and then have those players be able to get the final pass in, or find Mo, for instance, and be able to find those players, be able to have the ability to find our 5 deadly venoms, our front line, one of the front five deadly venoms that we have in the front line. So yes, I think that it would be nice to do this. It would be nice to see this happen. I say keep an open mind to what I'm saying. Keep an open mind. I get that. Again, you might have some reservations against it. You might not see it being the absolute solution that you're looking for. I would love to have a Kimmich. I would love to have a De Jong. I would love to see, maybe even a Florentino, a Luis in this role, or a Caicedo, who's some of the player that I would love to see playing as a DM. But again, these are all players that are somewhat out of our price range at the time. These are players that, again, I don't see FSG splashing the cash on. All quality players, but I don't know if they're necessarily this elevated and over elevated market has our team and our club not necessarily being in the best forum or best place when it comes to their spending habits. But I really would like to see this happen, and I would like to see when it does happen. I think it was, it'll you'll see what I'm saying. Maybe we get to finally, excuse me. Maybe we get to finally see. Excuse me, take a little water break. Maybe we get to finally see what it is that we were all so wanting to see. I think it's like what we want to see. I'm really, really looking forward to the season. I know there's a lot of doom and gloomers out there. I know, fortunately, a lot of doom and gloomers don't, tune into the channel here because, you have optimistic and a rightfully so optimistic aspect to this. Because, look, if there's anything I've learned from being a Red, it's to be optimistic. It's to have hope in your heart. I mean, it's to have that belief in your heart. And I believe in this club. I believe in Thiago. And yeah, I know I'm putting down on a player that could disappoint me via injury, but you know what? At this moment, we were very limited to what we could do or see or have as other options. So again, that's my take. I definitely think that this season will be a very interesting season. I think it's going to be a fun season. I think it's going to be certainly a Liverpool season. And what I mean by Liverpool season is it's going to be a season that has its ups and downs. It's not going to be wire to wire, win after win after win after win after win. But it is going to be one that's going to be full of opportunity. I think a lot of what we're going to see is going to be consistent or contingent upon these two things, people. And you'll hear, I'm sure you'll hear other pundits, I'm sure you'll hear other people say these things eventually, but remember who you heard it first. You're going to hear the fact that our counter press is going to be complementary and the most necessary thing it takes to having our success. Excuse me. And our counter press from our front line is going to create. And if our counter press works, if our counter press becomes the work rate and the workload of what we got from that brilliant front, that legendary brilliant front line of Mane, Bobby, and Salah, if we can get that work rate and the actual success rate in the counter press that we got with that front line, you're going to see a difference in our defense. I know there's going to be times when we're going to be held out to be open. There's going to be times when we can be caught. There's going to be times when we're going to rely on Ali making great saves. That's why we have a great world-class, if not the best in the world, keeper. It's why we do. It's why I know we don't want to put too much stress and wear and reliance on him. But we've seen it. It's why we have Ali. It's why we're trying to hold on to Kelleher. To have those adequate solutions in goalkeeping. And then I think you're going to be able to see it with having the bully that Konate is. You'll see a hopeful progression in this game. You're going to see the ability having, and also let me say this: I don't think that Konate is the best when it comes to having the ball on his feet. I think Matip, for instance, is a better option when it comes to dribbling and being able to progressively carry the ball forward. and I even think that Matip is a better solution when it comes to passing as well than Konate. But I absolutely think that Konate, with his physique, his physicality, his and his defensive prowess, is a great option at center back. I think he has amazing ability, amazing talent. But having a release lever in Thiago doesn't hurt. We've all seen Thiago come back and get the ball extremely deep. He'll receive the football extremely deep in the final in our third. Okay, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it, and I think that we're going to see something out of this team. Let's hope that we get the production out of Robbo. I'm big on Robbo, big up to Robbo, but I was a little down on his production and I was a little down on his production last year only because it wasn't creating what I was hoping for it to create. But then again, you're also having a player play who's a left back play left center back in essence. And then being asked to give some of the contributes that he was giving before, which is progressing forward and still going into an advanced role at times, and then really creating gaps. Those things are what I'm looking at, saying yes. I want to see him get a little bit better. I want to see hopefully us bring in a center back, left-footed center back that could play and help relieve the stress that role has brought on Robbo's shoulders. But until we do, look, counter press. Keep that word in your mind. Frontline counter press, top priority, top priority. Okay. The second, possession, finding those numbers, progress into that possession team that we saw from before. The team that was averaging in the 70s and 80 percentile sometimes 80% bracket of having percentage. That's astounding to have those kind of percentage numbers. If we can establish those two things, I think it will bring the amount of leeway, they'll bring the amount of space, the amount of breathing room that we're going to need for Thiago to excel in this role, in this position. It's going to be the amount of real progression that we're going to see. So yeah. So I'm gonna knock out a couple more comments before we leave because I think the chat was trying to get onto some things. Let's see. I like to think I'm balanced, but football is just a game. I love the community on here as much as anything. Absolutely. Yeah, I heard about that one, but the brother loves playing mind games like Pep. I don't know what that was referencing. Let's see. Let me see some other comments. I didn't star them. That makes me nuts. Let's see. Is there anything else that anyone wanted me to address? I think John Conway had something that he wanted me to answer, and I didn't necessarily. Oh, okay. I'll just give this a shout. A little bit of spoiler, but I am going to do a prediction. My predictions, I don't actually like to always make predictions when it comes to the to placings because people can hold you accountable. I mean, there's one time when I picked Leeds to perform better than they actually did, not the relegation year, but the year before that, and I allow for my my liking Leeds a little bit get the best of me. But 12th man, what is your top four for this season? I think that's a good question. I think that obviously you're going to have the normal players, or I should say, now we're not in the top four. I think that you're going to see Liverpool and City certainly going to be in the top four. I have, you know what? I'm just going to give you that little thing. The top, I'll give you those two are going to be in the top four. I have a top four, but I'm going to leave it for the segment, the episode, because I do have a top four. It was hard. It was very difficult when I was thinking about, because I saw a lot of people come out with their rankings or the season preview. And I was thinking about it. There's a lot of teams that can really do a lot of different work this year. You have your Brightons, your Villas, your Newcastles, your Manchester Uniteds, your Chelseas, that should make a resurgence. You have your Arsenals, and obviously you have your Cities and your Liverpool. It's going to be an interesting one. It's definitely going to be an interesting one. I'm going to save though. Tune in, John, when I do my I'll do a top six. I'm not going to do an entire league season preview. 12th man, are you suggesting Thiago and time? I am. That's what I am suggesting. I'm suggesting that in the base of the box, I'd like to see Thiago be the 6. I'd like to see Trent be his partner, and for Trent to do a little bit of more of the roaming when it comes to going forward. Obviously, continuing to be that inverted halfback. That's what I would like to see. I'd like to see it happen, and if it does, it'd be interesting. Let's see. That's the thing for me. We need a ball winner more than a DLP. And okay, that's an interesting opinion. Thiago is world class. That's not a question. It's just a question of what we need. I agree that a deep line playmaker might not suit your palate. I think though it could be something that could be. I think that the ball winning aspect of it, his defensive abilities, that's when you'll see more so with his football IQ, knowing to get more of the interceptions. You won't necessarily have to rely on his placement and positioning on the field. He'll be able to possibly increase his interceptions, and he'll also be able to put proper pressure and take away those options for the opposition by being able to know that his defensive ability is very underrated. Very underrated. I think that's something that he is better at that than people give him credit for. I think that's going to answer some of Beijing Pop's LFC thing. It says, at 12th man, I'm unfortunately seeing the 6th by committee, and Thiago is one of those who can play in specific matches. Oh, I showed this one. This was something I already showed. Again, it's what I'm saying. It's to play by committee. But I think that Thiago could be the chairman of that committee. I think Thiago could be chairman of that committee. A lot of people are J. Kisman saying, I'm going for college at the 6 versus Chelsea with Dom and Hackbo in front, Hatta, Darwin, and Salah up top. That team is ready to go. That could be a very interesting. I do have a starting 11 already ready to go. I know that I've been asked to be a part of a couple of shows that are doing the starting 11 shows. I'm going to do my own one. It'll be a quick one, most likely, like a 30, 45-minute one episode. But I do have a starting 11. I don't believe Thiago is going to be ready for the Chelsea match. I think that he's possibly could be an option off the bench. I think we could get a little taste, a little sliver of a taste of what Thiago is going to bring at that 6 if he is on the bench. I believe that he will be utilized as a sub possibly for the 6 role. But I do have an option, as Gene was saying. I do have a starting 11 made. I already have the graphics already put out. I have it ready for my show, and I have it ready for the guest appearances I'm going to be making on some of the other shows. Let's see. Anything else before I wrap it up here? Let's see. Trying to see if I see any other questions. If there's any other questions real quick, ask me anything. Oh, big up to again, Beijing Res TV. They already had a representative. Beijing Res TV already had a representative in the chat from Beijing Pops LFC, who always shows love. Definitely an OG that I really rate. I really do rate his football knowledge and his dialogue and that he brings to the discussion. And he's a part of a great crew. Rasta Crab, obviously Beijing Barons. They're all a collective of they're the Beijing crew, the Beijing Reds, and they bring some real Irie Island vibes to understanding that the love and the knowledge is there for them to bring. So hopefully you subscribe or you check them out. Give them a chance. I know I do. I know I love contributing to their show, and I would love for them to contribute to my show eventually or someday. If they do me the grace and pleasure of doing so, I would love it. Let's see. And last but not least, I think that's not a question to me. And yes, and I think right there, as we come on to the 2-hour mark, I'm gonna wrap it up right here in saying a lot of what it is to be. Look, I'm gonna wrap it up by saying you'll never walk alone. It's not just a song. It's not merely an anthem. It's a statement of intent, and to have that intention is what I'm asking and imploring my Reds to do, and that is by subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing. This becomes a movement to empower our mighty Reds, to make us truly a collective, to make us knowledgeable, to make us a solidified group that has each other's backs, that continues to support each other, that continues to know that no matter what, this is what it is that we have. You know, this is the beauty. This is the reason why you're here. It's because of what we have in this community, what we have as fellow Reds, and that is the love in our hearts for this club, the love to see this club be successful, all attributes of this club from top to bottom. Okay, you show love in every aspect of the game when it comes to our Reds, It's what I always try to exemplify. It's what I am definitely making my mission in this effort to create this channel, create the effort in being a part of other people's channels in the community. It's what I look at as being the intention that I hope that you really, really make your own. So with that, I'm going to say you'll never walk alone to all of my Reds out in the chat. Big up to all the people that were participating through the comments and bringing in and showing the love. Tune in for sure. I'm going to be definitely on a couple of different shows as we near the weekend. I'm going to be bringing out another show, a preview show for the Chelsea match. What I'll do is I'll bring out a show Thursday. Let's just do it Thursday, I guess. I was going to plan on doing it on Friday, but I'll up it for Thursday to show a real appreciation for the peoples that are asking for it. It'll include my starting 11, and it'll also even maybe go into another subject or two that we can just chat and understand. And I would love for you to put in the comments for this, and I would also like for you to participate in the discussion tomorrow so we can have what it is I want to progress further together. I want to walk on as always together, and that is by having real dialogue, having constructive criticism, having proper acclamations and proper attention put towards our club and to the club we all love. And with that said, I bid adieu, and I ask for all of us to walk on, but to always walk on together. Big up to the Reds, big up to the chat, big up to you, the 12th man, and I, as the Liverpool 12th man, am out.